I think at the very least this season, Mikel Marino has kind of reached like a little bit of like a cult status in a way of like those two goals against Leicester, where it's like, yeah, he's gonna be our striker the rest of the way. Let's go. Or it's just like going for the vibes. I think there's like a lot of things that are very endearing about Mikel Marino, and the fact that he's scoring goals is a great reason why. But also every single time he scores a goal, he does this fun little celebration around the corner flag. Like that's all fun. Like I like Mikel Marino.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shirtless Plantain Show, the Arsenal edition. This is your host, Dean, and today we are here to talk about Chelsea 0, Arsenal 1 at the Emirates. And I am very lucky today to have a distant guest, the OG of the show, if we really break it down. Like I know Coach came in here and kind of hijacked this shit, but really the OG lineup was Ebony and Ivory. Hello, Mitch. How you doing?
I'm great, Dean. It's great to be back. Our schedules have not aligned in too long. Yeah, I think my first appearance was like episode 3 of the Arsenal edition because the first one was like you by yourself. And so yeah, it's great to have just the two of us back here again talking about Arsenal. Unfortunately, not a great game that we have to talk about today.
No, no, it's extremely boring. Like a bit like your haircut, very boring. Not very Mitch. Like we not, like we had to comment on it and get it out the way. Like
Yeah,
yes,
the for anyone that's not watching on YouTube, I have chopped all of my hair off,
it's insane.
and Dean thinks I look like a Republican now. So,
His hairline is so far right, it's fucking crazy, man. Like this is the Andrew Tate of the pod. So if things get vaguely misogynistic before we end this, we all know why it happened. So it definitely won't be my fault and all the bullshit I say weekly. Let's get into this boring ass game, Mitch. This was Arsenal's first league win in a month, so we have to be grateful for that. And it was a
Holy
straightforward
shit.
3 points. Yeah. Like when you think about it like that, then you're kind of grateful for the result. But
Yeah.
as you mentioned earlier, this was not the best game. But let's start what we always start with the lineups. MLS was back in at left back. We had the front line of Marino at center forward, Martinelli on the right, and Trossard on the left. And everything else was as it typically is. Timber right flank. Ben White will make his way back from injury. Um, but my curiosity regarding the lineup has to do with Ethan. I'm sure you heard about that record that prior to 18, certain people, Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney, I believe, scored 9
Yes.
goals for their respective clubs in all competitions before they turned 18. Ethan was on 8. So I was like, oh man, Mikel, we don't really care about the rest of the league season. Like, come on, man, we should have gone for this. Today's goal should have been get Ethan a double. But he started on the bench, so I was pissed. Did you care about such frivolous things?
It was too early in the morning for me to remember that. Until he like actually was subbed on, I hadn't really thought about that. Um, But yeah, you're right. At this point of the season where it's like the league is gone, like we're not winning the league, like I understand the point of view of Ethan being on the bench today. Like he's played a lot of soccer since December, since Saka got hurt. And I think it's like good to give him a rest. However, when you like that's a thing where it's like if Mikel gets asked about that in a press conference after the game, he's gonna be like, he's played a lot of soccer. We wanted to rest him. We don't wanna burn him out, and we're not really focused on little records like that. When like as a fan, it's like, well, we want this to hold on to. Like it's been a disappointing couple of months. We want this to be able to grab onto. And so it's disappointing from a fan perspective. I'm sure Ethan's like I'm sure that was something that was, at the very least, something he knew about and knew that he was, like, on the precipice of, but, like, he's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
That's not exactly a record that, like, people are gonna be bringing up all the time, you know? It's only getting brought up because he was, like, getting close to it.
Hey, listen, man. We live in America. I'm pretty sure in England, in the trivia bars, that shit comes up all the time. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you used to talk about Wayne Rooney, of course. Chelsea showed up without Cole Palmer, but more importantly, and they haven't had him for a couple months now because he also has a hamstring injury. They showed up without Nicholas Jackson. But everyone was hitting my group chats with the Cole Palmer news, and I personally was nonplussed. I was like, I don't really care if he's there or not. I don't think it makes a difference. Like I've seen Cole Palmer play big games. I've seen him play against Arsenal a couple times. I'm not particularly worried about it. Were you? Were you pleased or displeased that he wasn't going to be present at the Emirates today?
So a byproduct of Arsenal not being great this year is that I really have not watched much soccer outside of Arsenal. Like I haven't like Arsenal have brought me a lot of joy this season, so I haven't exactly been like, yeah, I gotta throw on West Ham Southampton today. See what's going on. Watching games in the rest of the Premier League. So I like have been kind of checked out, so I didn't realize how bad Cole Palmer's been lately. Um, so I was just like, "Oh, great, Cole Palmer's out. That's huge." And then I was like, "Oh yeah, he hasn't scored since December." And it's like, "Oh, okay. I guess it wasn't that big of a deal."
Right, Cole Palmer's form basically matches Arsenal's form. Like we've both
Yeah.
been, so I wasn't in the slightest bit, like enamored by the fact that he wouldn't be there. I was like, even if he was there, like actually him being there would actually help us, I think, but he wasn't. Do you think both of the teams, because we had Marino up front, they played Pedro Neto as their nine. Do you think that contributed to the kind of anodyne, boring ass nature of this match?
Um, yeah,
Wait,
I mean,
well,
it probably had something.
let me rephrase the question a little bit, Mitch. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. Are false nines boring? Do we need real men up front again?
I
Like
wouldn't say
what does your haircut say, Mitch?
but men in America aren't being strong enough. This false nine woke bullshit. No, I mean like Kai's a false nine. If we're being honest,
He
like
is.
we and Gabriel Jesus is kind of a false nine if we're being honest. Like I wouldn't say that that had something to do with it. I think just Arsenal in general have been disjointed in the final third because like there was moments today, especially in the first half, where Arsenal played really well. Like we were playing like really fun interchanges leading up to goal, but once we get in the 18-yard box, we like kind of forget how to play soccer. And Chelsea was kind of the same thing. It was a lot of just guys trying to do their own thing of like we're gonna send Cucurella down the wing. No one else is in the final third. Or it's
Mhm.
like, hey, did you realize Jadon Sancho played today? Did you realize Jadon Sancho is a Chelsea player? Holy shit. Like another byproduct of me not paying attention is like, oh my God, Robert Sanchez is bald now. Oh my God, Jaden Sancho is a Chelsea player. Holy shit, all of this stuff is happening. Uh,
Hey, listen, Mitch. Even Chelsea fans don't watch Chelsea lately. Apparently, the big talking point from Chelsea lately is that the more Enzo Maresca has gotten his system in place there, where he, it's not dissimilar from what Pep and Arteta do in certain phases of the game, but he basically wants very structured attacks. And basically, the better he's gotten at coaching his team up to do that, the worse Chelsea have become. That's the big talking point from their team at the moment. So
mm,
apparently the argument is that early in the season when they were sort of competing for the title, if you will, when they were in
yes.
the race, when people were on 20 points and shit like that,
Mm,
back then they were supposedly good because the players still had a bunch of freedom and played with the Pochettino insanity and all that. And now that Maresca has instituted what he had at Leicester to get them promoted, all of a sudden Chelsea are really boring. I personally just think it's a function of them missing their two most important players because defensively they're shit. They have some talent in midfield, but the two players that really make Chelsea go or that made Chelsea go earlier this season were Nicholas Jackson and Cole Palmer. And
mhm.
if both are missing, I'm not really expecting much, and their gameplay today showed that. Um, Arsenal started the game well this time. I'll give them credit for
Yes.
that. But as you mentioned, Mitch, every time we got in the box, it just felt like people's brains short circuited. And the most guilty party for me, and I'm not here to do a witch hunt, but I'll definitely be hating on some people, was Leandro Trossard. I felt like Martinelli was fantastic, and we're going to talk about him a little later. I thought, like given what we expect from him, he didn't score a goal or anything, but I thought he was our most dangerous player. He was my man of the match. Even though I'm pretty sure that went to Marino for scoring.
Mhm.
But to throw it to you, Mitch, it's just a matter of efficiency, isn't it? Is it that Trossard is just better off the bench?
Yeah, I think this is kind of the conversation we keep having about Trossard is like, is he more of an impact sub and then he'll like play well as an impact sub and then he'll start games. But like right now we're in a place where we're just kind of shorthanded in attack. And I mean, you just mentioned Chelsea missing their two bright parts of the early season of Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson. we're missing Kai Havertz and Bukayo Saka. Like you're always going to be disjointed when you're losing your best players and you don't have your most effective players on the field. And you know it's what we've been dealing with since Saka's been hurt. Of just like yeah, w every team's going to look worse when they lose their best player.
Yeah, but
And and
I feel like you're letting people off the hook here, Mitch. You know, like,
well,
again, I'm
I
not here to hate, but we're talking about a guy getting the ball in the box and just shooting it the wrong way, or
yeah.
just not putting enough force on the shot. Like, are people just tired? Like, I kind of feel like the schedule has slowed down a bit lately, so it doesn't feel like a fatigue issue. It almost feels like a lack of intensity and focus issue, you know, or maybe his haircut is terrible now because I notice he doesn't have the fade anymore. He has like this long thing in the back. He's trying to look like a dad or some shit. I don't like it, and it's affecting his game. I think, Mitch. Why can't Trossard? I feel like that's the whole point of Trossard. Like his general play isn't the best. He often costs us things when he's in our half. So when you get the ball in the box, the least you can do is work the goalkeeper,
Yeah,
and he wasn't doing that today.
he's got to be clinical. It's kind of like the Aubameyang thing. It's like when he's not scoring, he's not doing anything. And that's why Trossard was like such a great impact sub and has been a great like fourth attacker for us. But now that he's like number two or number three, I mean, yeah, I mean Marino started as striker today, again. So he's a makeshift attacker. Trossard's a number two attacker or a number one attacker, based on Martinelli's coming back from injury, and if he's not scoring, then what is he doing? So I completely understand that. I'm not like giving up on Leandro Trossard or anything. Like I still think he's like a player that can do damage for us, but like yeah, I agree. I don't think he like if everyone's healthy, he's not starting.
That's fair. I think I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not so much giving up on him, or maybe you can call it giving up on him, but I would drive that motherfucker to Saudi Arabia myself, like dead ass. I'm tired. I'm fed up. I don't want to watch. If you're watching on YouTube, you may see Deen, very annoyed Arsenal fan, underneath my Chiron underneath my face. Like I'm very annoyed, and I've started scapegoating people because that's what fans do. I'm ready to start scapegoating. It's time to cook some
Hmm.
goat meat. And Trossard today, I feel like if he was in better form or if he was on top of his shit, he probably scores 2 goals in that opening 30-minute period of the match. I'd actually argue that our best player was Robert Sanchez. He was fucking terrible. He is so bad. Like I've actually felt bad about listening to a bunch of different podcasts, more general interest podcasts, talk about how terrible he's been for Chelsea. But watching him in person today, well, not in person, but watching him on TV, I was like, yeah, they're absolutely right about that. He fucks their game up in so many subtle ways, and I enjoyed very. He's so flappy. The his footwork is terrible. Every time he touches the ball with his feet, you have a chance to turn it over from him. But unfortunately, we didn't take full advantage of that today because we weren't very efficient ourselves. But we had a really interesting moment in the 12th minute of this game. Five plays the ball over the top to Timber. Him and Cucurella are racing each other. Cucurella basically handles the ball. But after that, Timber continues, plays the ball in, it gets cleared, deflected. Sanchez saves it. Then Declan Rice blasts it out of play. I guess the first question is, why wasn't that a penalty? And the other question is, should we still have scored from that situation?
To answer the second question first, yes, I think we still should have scored from that situation. It was frustrating that we didn't. We had a couple times where we put the ball across the dangerous zone. A Chelsea defender didn't get to it, and we somehow didn't score. And just ball rattling around the 18, which is really frustrating. In terms of the penalty, I think I've said many times on this show over the years, I don't. I watch a lot of soccer. I don't know what a handball is. I don't know how handballs work. It's truly like I think there's an argument to be made that it like hits him higher, like up the sleeve,
Above
which
his
is
sleeve,
supposed to
yeah.
be not like a handball. He does throw his arm out, so his arm's in a natural position, but you can make an argument that like there's contact from Timber and that's why he's falling. I have no idea. There's a ref decision later in the game that I'm more peeved about than this. I think like there's a thing that's later in the game that's way more egregious than like this. It's like, yeah, I like maybe another team gets the call. Maybe that's a different call on a different day, but like I don't know what a handball is, so it's hard for me to be mad at it.
That's fair. As for the rest of the chance, because Timber crosses two in the general area Martinelli is in. I think the ball was a little inaccurate, so it gets
Yeah.
deflected by a defender. Goalkeeper makes a decent save there. Then Rice, I'm probably being harsh, but I feel like he should have done better with that follow up shot. But he just blasted over. There was pressure coming in from the defender, so I don't know. I just think he's a really good player, and he should be able to score that. That's just where I'm at with that. Like I don't think that's a high standard to hold Declan Rice to. Like I know he's not a natural attacker, but when you have a ball that you can volley right in front of the net, you got to force a save or a deflection or something to just blast it into the crowd. This ain't West Ham, bro. Like, come
I
on,
mean,
step it
it's
up.
it's hard to it's hard to time those kinds of hit, and like he just gets under it, kind of thing. It's like that kind of thing happens.
Oh man, I should have made it to the elite level. I could have taught so many people so much. Oh man, me and Uncle Rico, we just didn't make it. Anywho,
If only your knees weren't made of paper.
exactly. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. In any event, we move on. I think the handball is a good jump off point to talk about the refereeing, especially in that first half. I thought it was really funky. We had Chris
Yes.
Kavanagh, who I believe sent Rice off against Brighton earlier in the season for
Mhm.
because Rice gave him no choice. He kicked the ball away. Okay. And we had Jared Gillett, the renowned Australian Liverpool fan, on VAR. And when that penalty wasn't given, the thought did cross my mind. I was like, I don't think Jared Gillett realizes that his team is 15 points ahead of Arsenal right now. He doesn't have to do this anymore. Like you don't have to hold us back. We did that all by ourselves, apparently. But I thought Kavanaugh, with no assistance from the ref, did a really poor job of managing the game in the first half. Like, I don't know how Fofana didn't get booked, especially when he stomped on Rice. I thought that was a red card moment. I know we don't know. I know PGMO seems to want to protect violent conduct and punish more delay of game and respect type offenses, but that was egregious, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing that like I think was a more cut and dry VAR error than the handball thing. Um, he just stomps on Rice's like the back of Rice's leg. The fact that he didn't even get a yellow card on the field is crazy, and the fact that VAR did not give him a red card is truly egregious. Like Fofana had 7 yellow cards today.
It's
Um,
insane.
it was a very poorly controlled first half. I think there was maybe like 1 or 2 yellow cards given out in the first half, and considering how physical the game was, I don't think that was good enough.
Right.
And then it was like an overcorrection in the second half where every foul was getting a yellow card. It was like one of those games where it's like there was a lot more flow to the first half, which made the first half more enjoyable to watch. And I think both teams were struggling in attack, but it's not helped when every single thing is being called and every single thing is being booked. And it's just like stop, start, stop, start, stop, start game. Just makes it unenjoyable to watch as a fan. I'm just like, all right, can this game be over now? Like this just sucks.
Like on multiple occasions, I had the exact thought of, I can't believe I woke up for this shit.
Yeah.
like it's too early to be watching this bullshit. But let's carry on. PAGMLL not surprising us. 20th minute corner Arsenal swung in by Odegaard. Marino makes a run across the front post. Lovely header. There's no accident to what he was doing there. He knew exactly what he was doing. But the way it loops in and goes into the far post was just beautiful. Robert Sanchez got a fingertip to it, couldn't do enough about it. No blame on him there. There's plenty of blame for him elsewhere in the game. But I guess the question is, do you think Marino, between this moment, the goal against Liverpool earlier in the season, do you think Marino has an actual chance to win over? Because I feel like we can, as much as I hate to admit it, especially about a new signing that hasn't been here for that's been here for about 6 months maybe. I think the general consensus on him is that the signing hasn't quite worked the way we wanted it to work. But nothing has this season, to be fair. But do you think he might get enough moments like today's to sort of at least endear the home crowd to him, which is where it all starts in my mind, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the very least this season, Mikel Marino has kind of reached like a little bit of like a cult status in a way of like those 2 goals against Leicester, where it's like, yeah, he's gonna be our striker the rest of the way. Let's go. Or it's just like going for the vibes. I think there's like a lot of things that are very endearing about Mikel Marino. And the fact that he's scoring goals. is a great reason why. But also every single time he scores a goal, he does this fun little celebration around the corner flag. Like that's
I
all
love it.
fun.
I
Like
love it.
I like Miguel Marino, and I think you're absolutely right. I don't think it's like been like completely the way that it was envisioned, but this season's not gone the way it was envisioned. Like he broke his arm in his first training session. As soon as he came back, Odegaard was injured, and all of a sudden there was creative onus on him where there shouldn't have been because we brought him in as like a dual winner box to box guy to be playing the left eight, and there was he kind of we like never I think we've seen like the Odegaard, Rice, Marino midfield in like a normal condition like 5 times this season. Like
Even
we
if it's been that many, to be honest with you.
yeah, and that was what we kind of envisioned when we brought him in, of like having this kind of midfield, having him be like the true box to box, having Rice sitting as the six, and we haven't seen that. So it's just been like a tough season for him. So it's great that like he's having this run as a striker and he's scoring. Like he's doing his job. And you know, the way he scored today is not going to go away next season when Havertz is back and we potentially have a new number nine, or like a new player coming in at striker because it was from a set piece. Another reason why we brought him in. He's a big body on a set piece, can win those headers. And we broke our goal drought in set pieces, which is really nice.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out Nico Jorver, because we gave him a lot of love when it felt like we had a streak going, and it's been a quiet couple months now. So we got to
Hmm.
give him credit for getting us back on track. It was a really lovely header. I think we've
Yeah,
maybe understated the goal a bit. It was a moment of quality
absolutely.
that did not belong in this stupid ass game. Put it that
Yep.
way. Like the goal was that good. That's it. Let's talk about who I already knighted as the man of the match, Gabriel Martinelli. He's essentially freshly back from injury. I think this is maybe his third game back with minutes, maybe
I
third
think
or
it's about
fourth game
right.
since he
Yeah.
came back with the from the hamstring. And I think we all sort of accept that as Arsenal fans that what remains in this season, or what's the most important thing about this season, is the quarterfinal we'll be playing against Madrid in a couple weeks here. And if we have any chance of getting through that tie, Gabriel Martinelli is probably going to have to do something productive in that game. And I thought this was a really good in a squad where there was more competition and everyone wasn't injured. This would be a good audition for I'm ready to play. I thought he was really good. I don't particularly like him all that much on the right compared to the left, but I thought he
Hmm.
was really good at playing to his own strengths, which was basically running in straight lines, which is I'm gonna fake a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm going in that straight line down the line and putting a dangerous crossing into a dangerous area. And I think he did that on several occasions, especially in the first half. And he was our best player today. Do you do you think he's gonna get up to a level where you have some confidence as a fan that he can help us in Madrid and at the Emirates when they come over? Is that too much
I'm
pressure on
I'm
the guy?
I'm always gonna be backing my guy Gabriel Martinelli. I love this guy. I am always gonna be rooting for him to do well. I thought he was great today. And you know, I think we missed his energy. I think we missed his runs in behind. Especially when like teams want to play higher up. So it was great to have him back today, and it felt like we had a little bit of the older Martinelli. Obviously without a goal, but like I agree. I think he played really, really well. I don't know if he's my man of the match. I think I
Uh,
would give that more to Gabriel or Saliba. Probably Saliba. I think he was really, really good today. I think this was a game where it's like I would rather give a lot of credit to how imperious our defense was today, as opposed to like how like our attack was. I mean, Martinelli had a great game. He was clearly gassed by the end. I think we probably could have taken him off 10 minutes earlier because he's still coming back into fitness and he is a hard working player. But yeah, I was really, really happy with how he did today.
good, good, good. I concur. Um, if I'm going to give the man of the match to someone that's not him and go more defensive, it's definitely Gabriel for me. Saliba was a little, Chelsea didn't offer much, which is probably the main highlight from this game. How blunt Chelsea were, but there were moments in the first half where Saliba did not look like Saliba, and I didn't like that. And I noticed it, and I remembered it. Like Enzo Fernandez can't be making you look shaky, bro. Like Enzo can't even run. Like you got to fix up. And Big Gabby, he did Big Gabby things today. He had his moments. He got the captain's armband near the end, and the whole crowd thing. I'm not gonna get into the crowd. I'll just say it was a very quiet game. But to be
Uh,
fair, there was nothing for them to yell at, to be honest with you.
Speaking of Gabrielle doing the crowd thing at the end, there was a moment on commentary. I think it was Graham Lasso was
It was
like,
him.
are we at a point where players are expecting a standing ovation for anything they do? And it's like, what? He was just trying to fire the crowd up at the end of the game of just like, hey, we're trying to see this out. We need the extra push. He wasn't like, yeah, cheer me on for what I've done. It was like it was just like a very weird misinterpretation of the situation of something Gabrielle does every game.
Pretty
Like
much.
he's just like a player that likes to get fired up after a play like that. And it's not like a cheer me on. It's like, no, like just trying to get the crowd energized. It was just
Hey,
a
and guess
weird
what?
moment on commentary.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because that actually popped up in the group chat earlier. And I suppose my reaction to it is that Graham Lasso, like Lee Dixon, is a sourpuss. And
Yeah.
and essentially it's like it's just hater shit. It's hater shit. I'm a hater. I know what hater shit is. That was pure hater shit. Like basically, this is a man that is under the misguided impression that we all woke up this morning and turned on our TVs to listen to his dumbass. Like, we're not here for you, bro. Like a lot of games I watch on mute just so I don't have to hear your dumbass, you know. So hate all you want. We gonna hate on you on this podcast as well. Let's just keep that hate train running. That's what's popping right now, to be fair. Hate is where it's at. Look at Mitch's haircut. You know, he's all about the hate. You know, the intensity dropped after we scored. I felt like at that point we're content to sort of drop into a block and let Chelsea try to play through us, and they didn't even come close to doing that. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, it just made for the very boring game that we've been referencing the whole time. But um,
Hey, it was fitting. George Graham was in attendance today. We had to play like this.
he was
Like
propping.
it was yeah, with
Go
Arsenal
on.
heritage, we had to play like this. It was like we
Yeah,
score one, we're going 1-0 to the Arsenal and just chilling from there because George is in the house.
and it was from a
Uh,
set piece. It was from a set piece,
yeah.
which is what he would absolutely love. He was probably up there just wondering why he didn't take more Viagra before the game, but we can move on. Oh, before we move into the second half, Chelsea did create one chance in that first half, and it was when a ball sort of dropped to Cucurella on the left side of our box, and he volleys it. It's supposed to be a routine catch for Raya. He mishandles it, and it trickles out. Um, Watching it live, at no point did I actually think the ball would go in. I didn't actually panic because for whatever reason, the angle sort of made sense to me. I knew exactly what had happened. The angles made sense. I wasn't worried. But where were you when when, when that ball slipped away from Raya and everyone looked like, where were you mentally?
I was I'm gonna crash out if that fuck Cucurella scores against us. I fucking hate that guy. And if he scored an undeserved goal, I would just be in a pit of myself.
That's fair because I'd be pissed. I think Cucurella has a good argument for the most disliked player in the Premier League. I don't think a lot of non-Chelsea fans would like that guy. He's always involved in some shithousery. He has that stupid ass hair. He's so demonstrative. He's always getting into shit in every game. I can't
I
stand that
think
motherfucker.
Bruno Fernandez still has that for me. Like, I don't know if he's ever gonna take that crown. I just fucking hate him.
It's fair,
But
but I feel
yeah,
like Bruno at
Cucurella
least
is the
gets all
top
these
three.
goals. Like Bruno gets a lot of goals. He's an attacking player, so I think you can still kind of argue. And he's the captain at his club, so you can sort of have these other factors. Cucurella is just annoying. Like the best thing about him
Yep.
is that he plays for Spain. That's literally it. Otherwise, he was overpriced. His transfer was overpriced. He, I just hate his face. I hate his hair. I hate everything about that motherfucker, man. He's gross. Uh, let's move on to halftime. Were you expecting any changes? I mean, we rarely ever change anything, but did you want to say anything different? Because I felt like our intensity was poor, so it might have helped to just bring someone else on.
Yeah, it was a little frustrating where like I felt like we started really well and like did the classic Arsenal thing of like starting really well, not putting the ball in the net where it's just like, yeah, Chelsea might get a goal against the run of play here and it would suck. And then we kind of like took it back a little bit and it was like maybe it's the 5-0 from last season, but I'm just like, bury these motherfuckers. Like, just bury them. And we kind of lacked the intensity to do that, and it was kind of a
Mhm.
bummer. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I was hoping for changes, but I was hoping for us to come out of the gates of the second half the same way we did the first, and we really didn't.
Yeah, it was disappointing. Let me read something that I probably wrote. Here's what I wrote in the group chat at halftime in the SPS group chat. This has been an extremely arrogant performance by our players. We'll never fully know, but I expect Arteta to curse these guys out at halftime after that first half performance. That's where I was at halftime. That's what I wrote in the group chat at halftime. I just felt like it was very clear to our guys very early in that first half that, oh, Chelsea are here for the taking today, and there was a bit of a casualness about the way we approached the game, where it was like they can't hurt us and we'll get something at some point. So everyone was just kind of like slashing that shit, not really focused with their finishes. Just the last action was just missing in that first half, and it was very frustrating. And I thought we started the second half well because well, actually, you know what? Let's make the point that Fofana finally gets booked around somewhere in the 50th to 60th minute. He gets booked because he delays the game by kicking a second ball on the pitch, not because of all the times he fouled Arsenal players, which is just the perfect and classic representation of the PGMOL's approach to refereeing games. It's like stupid delay of game or respect type offenses, book immediately. Endangering federal professionals over and over again, ignore that. That's okay though. We've been linked with Bruno Guimaraes, so maybe we'll benefit from that someday. We'll do the Berta section later in a little bit. But
Okay.
the most notable moment from the second half for me was when yet another Martinelli cross goes in and Marino volleys it. The newly bald Robert Sanchez, newly bald to Mitch, Robert Sanchez makes a
Yeah.
nice save. I actually thought it had gone in watching on TV. I thought the ref was going to do
It was
the.
close.
Yeah, it was pretty close. It was pretty close. I mean, maybe not as close as some of the ones you've seen in the past, but it was
Yeah.
definitely halfway over the line, and it was a great save from him.
It was close enough where they did showed the goal line later.
Symbology, yeah,
Like
yeah.
anytime it's that close, I mean it's close.
Yeah, but they didn't do it immediately. They kind of
Yeah.
waited a while to do it. So at that point, I was like, it's not that close, but it was close enough to show. So I appreciate that they
Yeah.
showed that. But I guess the main question from the second half is that given the fact that we have an international breakup coming, I felt like we weren't very proactive with, like, in the best of times, Mikel is not the most sub happy manager. But I don't think we're really looking to make any subs. Do you have any theories or thoughts as to why that might have been the case?
Our bench is light. Raheem Sterling hasn't really. I mean, I guess we're coming off of the best Arsenal performance for Raheem Sterling in the Champions League. So it is kind of crazy that he didn't get into the game.
Well, he's a Chelsea player, so he wasn't even in the
Oh,
squad.
he's not even eligible. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's
wasn't
not
even on
eligible.
the bench. That makes sense. Yeah, totally forgot he's on loan. Um, yeah, but even more so, lack of options. Like Ethan was kind of our only attacking player available off the bench. And so he wasn't it didn't we didn't have a lot of options to bring on.
Yeah, but I really wanted to see. We don't need to get into the details, but I also not tweeted. I texted some unkind things to the biggest Trossard fan in my life. I just wasn't having him today. And maybe I focused on him a little bit because I wasn't in the mood to give it to Odegaard again. I thought he was pretty not great today. I mean, there was a lot of him popping up in areas and progressing the ball and all that, but honestly, I'm not giving you credit for what I consider to be the bare minimum from a player with your talents in the position you play in. Like all this, I'm dropping deep between Saliba and Gabriel to move the ball forward shit, or I'm leading the press shit. Like, bro, that's a job description. Now you getting goals, getting assists, that is where I'm going to give you props. And I just felt like today was
He got an assist.
yeah, it was from a corner, and the header did all the work, really. Let's be honest. It was a great header. But yeah, he did get an assist, but I wasn't happy with him today. We don't need to go. I've established my bona fides on this podcast as an Odegaard
Yes,
hater.
yes, you
I,
have.
I'm gonna just say it. Like, I wouldn't mind a future Arsenal that doesn't really have him in the plans. I'm good on Odegaard personally. I'm just good on him. Like, I know it feels like a trendy thing to say, but if you've listened to this podcast for long enough, I've been hinting at this for years. Okay. He's a good player, but for fuck's sake, man, either get better or get the fuck out. That's where I'm at with it. Like, I don't like what happened to his ball striking, Mitch. You like him? Explain it to me. Is this like a Norwegian thing where in years that are odd years you can't kick the ball properly. This was a man that scored 15 goals not that long ago. What is this? Like, this isn't even about form anymore because a lot of the things that frustrate me about his game were there when he was good as well. I'm just like, there was an opportunity in the second half where he got a cutback from what we used to call the ozone. Remember that? Remember that era? The ozone? And he
Yeah.
just hit it weakly again, which surprised nobody, including his young infant. I'm sure the infant is so not impressed with he's like, you know what? I wish I was born to Kevin De Bruyne. That's
This
that's
is this is this is that's one of the craziest hating I've ever heard
yeah,
of. Your infant is probably disappointed with your ball striking.
like dead ass, man. Like I think it's important that when I hate, every time I hate anew, I gotta hate with some fresh jabs. I can't come with the same hate every week, Mitch. I gotta bring something new.
No, hey, I gotta hand it to you because as someone who's a big Odegaard fan and doesn't love your hating of him, I appreciate that you're keeping it fresh. And I appreciate that you're gonna bring new things to the table every time, and that is his infant now hates him.
Oh, well, he hates his game. He loves his dad. I'm sure.
Okay, okay. There's a sweet side to this.
Yeah, but he loves his mom more, obviously, because breast milk. But we'll move on. In the 73rd, MLS made a really lovely run through midfield. Fofana fouled him, fouled an Arsenal player yet again. He was on a yellow at this point, but to be fair, I didn't think it was a red card worthy type sending off or like worthy of a second yellow card. But I'm just saying he should have been off long before then. And my favorite thing that Odegaard did in this game was that when this free kick eventually got taken, it took forever for us to set up. It was from a position that we typically don't score free kicks from because you're taking a direct free kick. One, he complained about the wall, the Chelsea wall. I love that. Whether he was right or wrong, I just like the idea that after last week's bullshit with Bruno Fernandes, somebody was at least cognizant of to be like, hey, we need another yard or whatever. So I respect that. Then secondly, Declan Rice took the free kick. It ended up bouncing off Enzo and going for a corner, but I just figured those free kicks should be Rice's by now. Given that we've
Yeah.
had a long enough time of Odegaard getting them and not me scoring them. But do you agree with me on that, or am I still being mean to the captain?
No, I absolutely agree.
Okay.
Odegaard cannot take free kicks anymore. Please don't do that. We have not scored a direct free kick since Burnley away in 2021. Like that's insane. I was like a sophomore in college, or like a junior in college then.
And now you pay
Um,
taxes? That's fucking crazy.
yeah, now I have 401k, like and he was still taking free kicks like that was 2 games ago. So yeah, put Declan Rice on that. He's a great ball striker. Have him do that. So like I was like just I would like it went off for a corner and I was like I'm just glad Deck took that. I'm just glad that like we just didn't have like one just hit the wall and be done with that. So I agree. Yeah, I'm glad that Odegaard wasn't taking that.
Yeah, you know who else surprises me that isn't in the mix for more of our direct free kicks? Trossard. I feel like he has the right technique for good free kicks, but he never really
I
takes them,
agree.
which is
Yeah.
disappointing. In any event, finally we made a sub in the 78th minute. Ethan came on for Martinelli with a chance to match the greatest trivia record in English history. But nothing really happened. So we'll just leave that there, unless you have any commentary on what Ethan did after he came on.
Nope.
It was that kind of game, folks. Trust me, we're trying our hardest to make this somewhat entertaining. I've
It's like
involved the man's
the
child, okay, and I apologize for that, Martin. If you hear this, like, you have a lovely child, you have a lovely family. You just really suck at football right now. You need to step it up. That's where I'm at with it.
in like in doing this like podcast, there's like oftentimes if you get thrown to, it's just like you're supposed to do kind of like a yes and thing. It's like, oh yeah, I thought Ethan was really bright today. No.
There's no end.
No.
There's no end. Yeah, but I think on one hand, I feel like given Chelsea's lack of threat, Mikel was just sort of waiting to see what Enzo Maresca would do off his bench. And at that point, he was going to react. And Enzo Maresca didn't really react to anything. I mean, at the end of the game, I felt like his subs weren't really made with the intention of trying to win the game. He brought on Kieran Dewsbury Hall. He brought on Tyreek George.
Who I've never heard of.
Yeah,
And
he's like the Team Osaka when you see him.
yes, 100%.
But he came on, didn't do much. Kieran Dewsbury Hall at least ran beyond our back line once. I noticed that. It was so
Yes.
obvious because no one else did it the whole game. You know. Like Chelsea
I'm a big
just
KDH fan. I've been a fan of him for a long time, so it's
from
a
Leicester
bummer that he's
days.
a Chelsea player. Yeah, he was a fun player at Leicester. He was like someone where when we were linked to Tielemans, I was like, I'd rather have him. Like that's a Leicester midfielder I preferred. I really like KDH.
I like him, but I was definitely more Tillemans, and I'm still more Tillemans, just given what we need. I mean, I feel like
Hmm.
Dewsbury Hall is like a budget, really, really budget version of like Declan Rice. You know, like a guy that can
Yes.
get up and down. You know, like and you could always use a player like that, but not for what Chelsea paid for him. And whatever it was, I don't know how much it was. I'm guessing 40 million. It was too much. Let's just skip to the 90th where we had our second and final sub. Keep in mind, people, we can use five of them things. Five, but we only did two. And this was a sub in the 90th minute to bring on another Kieran Tierney for Martin Odegaard. And Mitch, I know I'm wilding here, but that should upset me so bad because I'm like, oh, so you brought him off in the 90th so he get a standing ovation from the crowd for this performance? For this performance? I don't know. Maybe I'm a little too bitter, but what did that substitution mean really? I mean, like you saved the guy 5 minutes. What was the point of that?
Waste time. I don't know. See out the game.
I mean, he
Bring
can
on an
lose.
extra defender. Like I feel like you're being too much of a hater about that for sure. I think there's a lot of criticisms that you have of Odegaard that are very fair, but I think getting mad at that he was subbed off in the 90th minute and getting an ovation, that's maybe a little.
It's
I can turn the other like I can turn away when you're saying his infant hates his style of play, but when you're talking about when he's subbed, I think he has no control over. That's where I'm going to draw the line.
Oh man, I was on my couch fuming like, Mikel, how dare you? How dare you get this motherfucker more claps than he ever deserved? I was fuming, bro. It was crazy. Like I'm so glad no one was here because I'd still be ranting about that instead of recording the podcast. But um, you know, given the nature of this game and the fact that we're already at the 40-minute mark of this podcast, Mitch, and we typically go for about an hour. Let's talk about some other shit that's Arsenal related because after this we have the international break, so we will not see Arsenal until April 1st when we host Fulham at the Emirates. So in the interim, since the last time we saw each other, Arsenal have a new sporting director. His name is Andrea Berta, and he was previously at Atletico Madrid. From what I have learned from all my reading and listening, he essentially, he made his way up the chain there, and he's made some good signings. He's made some bad signings, like every sporting director. However, he sort of got forced out in what felt like a bit of a power struggle after someone got hired above him and basically took his job description. So he took a bit of a sabbatical, learned the language, came to Arsenal. For you as a fan, one, do you think this is? I mean, I know we can't really evaluate sporting directors. We don't really know what they do as fans are not in the building, but we have a general idea of what they're there to do. Based on what we know about this guy, which is not very much, I can admit. Do you think, given what we heard about the other candidates, like for instance the interim guy, Jason Ato, and potentially getting Roberto Olabe from Real Sociedad, of all the candidates we heard of during that process, was this a choice you wanted? And what is his first assignment for you as a fan?
I I'm a little weird when it comes to like things like that. Where's like executives that you truly have no idea on the day to day. Like managers are easy to judge because their evidence is like on the field. It's a little bit harder for sporting directors because it's like even during the Edu era, it was random on whether Edu would get credit for a signing or if it'd be an Arteta signing. Like if it was bad, it was Edu, but if it was good, it was Arteta.
But only if you like Arteta. If you don't like Arteta,
Yes,
if it's bad, then it's Arteta. If it's good, then it's Edu.
yes. It's like I don't think there's enough information that you get as a fan to be able to judge these kinds of things. So I was very much just like I don't really care who it is. I think I wanted someone with like a little bit more gravitas than Ado has, just in terms of like been around the block of just like been like hiring from someone like Atletico or Sociedad or Dan Ashworth even like would be a little bit more like oomph to the hire than just like promoting the guy that like we haven't really seen much from. That would seem like a risky move in the place that we're currently in. But like I don't really have any like sweeping like takes on this. I know that's boring podcasting. I know I've said a lot of words to not say much of anything.
That's
But
only
I
fair,
think
Mitch. That's what we do here. That's what we do here.
yeah,
We're not the hot take
but
merchant.
I think for in terms of like first thing, obviously Arsenal have like done a lot of work in the background of like scouting these players of like, oh, we've got a tentative deal in place with Zubameni. Okay, don't fuck up the existing things that we've got going. That's first order of business. Don't come in and be like, cool, you guys want Zubameni? Awesome. He's a talented player. Let's keep working on that. I'm not going to go in there into the negotiating room and it's like, hey, what's up? I'm the new guy. Fuck you. Like, and just derail a deal that's like already had a lot of wheels in motion. So I think like a lot of things is just kind of, I mean, with any new job, you're not going to go in there unless you're Elon Musk. You're not going to go in there and just like try to shake everything up from the get go. So
Elon Musk or your barber, Mitch.
hey, my barber's off the hook because my barber's usually my grandpa, and he has refused to do this anytime I've asked. So I had to pay someone to do this. Uh, so I'm gonna make sure that my barber, my actual barber, stays innocent in this conversation.
Shout out Mitchell's grandpa. That's one of the good white men. I think. I don't know. Probably not, but we'll get into that off um, Andrea Berta. For me, I do like you made a very good point. You use the word gravitas, and that's essentially the only reason I have an opinion about the signing. I'm just like, you know what? I don't know what that means for Jason Ato within our structure moving forward, but I don't particularly care. I'm sure he'll be fine. He doesn't have as much in student loans as I do. I promise you that. But I do like the idea that this is a guy that's been involved in big money deals that feels like he'd be the sort of guy, again, and this is just making wild assumptions. I admit this. I'm speculating here. But if a guy was willing to buy Yao Felix all those years ago, then he's probably the sort of guy, or if he's the kind of guy that there are rumors that his relationship with Simeone cooled down because he got Simeone a number of players that weren't necessarily what Simeone wanted. And the one of those that really stands out to me is Arthur Vermeeren. He's a young Belgian player that came to Atletico when Diego Simeone wanted what Argentinians call a five, like basically what number five does at Arsenal, that sort of player. And Vermeeren has that experience, but he's also 18. Players typically have to mature into that position. And he's probably more comfortable as more of an 8-10 type, player. And Simeone asked for a five sort of player, and this guy Berta got him Vermeeren, and I'm like, okay, that's good because I feel like Mikel, again, he hasn't really spent on a big attacking signing outside of Havertz, who was supposed to be a midfielder at the beginning.
Mhm.
I feel like this is sort of a guy that might push Mikel towards a more creative sort, because he
Yeah.
also signed Yao Felix, which at the time we all said it was too much money to the wrong club, and he was like, "Fuck it, I can make Cholo change. I can make our Cholo change." It never happened, but at least he tried it, and I kind of respect that. I like a sporting director that has a little bit of fantasy about him. I'm sure he has like a Roberto Baggio poster on his wall at home or some shit like that. So hopefully that pans out in the signings we're linked to. In the interim as well, Miles Lewis-Skelly got his first England call-up to the first squad under Thomas Tuchel. This is objectively good news because we want players at our club to do things that elite players do, and elite players tend to play for their national teams. Any thoughts and reaction as to this call-up, and any thoughts on Ethan having to settle for the other 21s?
Uh, to start with that, I think it was an easier path for Miles than it was for Ethan. I think Ethan plays in like a way more contentious position for what would be in the conversation to be in the England squad, whether he's playing on the wing or in midfield. And I think it makes sense for Tuchel to not call up Ethan in the fact that like the position that he's kind of foreseen in, he's kind of barely played this season. He's played more right wing than anything else because of Saka's injury. Um, so I think especially if you envision him more as a midfielder, and I think Arsenal do, and I think England probably do, it probably makes more sense to call him up at the U21s. He gets to play midfield, and you get to see him there at more of a natural progression. With Miles, he's playing left back. That is the weakest position for England, and it has been for years. Because Luke Shaw has been the only English left back, and he is never available except for like just randomly in major tournaments. Um, so it's the most open position in the England squad. So that's why I've been saying for months, I'm like, Miles is probably England's best left back right now. Um, not only is he getting called up to the squad, there's a good chance he starts. Like, there's a very clear pathway for him, and it's just because he's playing left back. And I guess we're this is Tuchel's first squad, so it remains to be seen like what kind of system he's gonna be playing. We know he loves a three back. And I think Miles is a versatile player where like he could play left wing back. He could
Yeah.
play midfield. Like he's a player that like as an international manager where you're I mean, obviously it's tough for England because your pool is so deep, but like you got a lot of talent that you're trying to fit into a squad and you're trying to appease everyone. You've seven players that play the best position. They're all better than each other. And you need to figure out this way of like how you're going to build the best squad. And having a player like Miles Lewis-Skelly is going to help you do that because he can play a variety of positions at a super high level. He's a young player. And I'm so happy for him. He totally deserves it.
Likewise, very well said, Mitch. I was I still think my moment of the season so far, maybe something else will happen. Hopefully something else happens to move this down to second, third, 20th even. But the moment when Miles scored against Man City was still
Easy number one
remains
for
my
me too.
favorite. Like with Ethan, I always expected goals from him. Like goals are always going to be a part of what you get out of him. With Miles, I never quite expected that. So for him to score that kind of goal against
Mhm.
that opponent was just the best moment. I was so happy, and I'm glad that all of that has culminated in this. And I think another factor that's maybe a little understated, given the fact that we don't know for sure that he will start for England, is the fact that him and Rice actually have pretty good chemistry on the field, and they're
Mhm.
going to be in the same area of the field, no matter where Tuchel decides to use him, if he uses him. So I think that's another factor that's maybe a little understated. But ultimately, I do hope that his development continues in a way that means that he's mostly playing in midfield, because I think he's definitely more a midfielder than a fullback, even if he can play fullback quite well. Uh, Mitch, you haven't been around for a while, so do you have anything else for the people before we get out of here?
No, I think that's all. I mean, it's been a tough season, guys. It has not been fun. We appreciate you all for listening through a tough season. And hopefully we can just get back to it and reset next season. Hopefully we get a nice little like just a little Champions League win, cherry on top.
Just a little sprint
Just
in
a
there.
small favor. I just want us to win the Champions
Just a
League.
scotch.
That's
Yes,
that's all.
you're not asking for much here,
No.
All right then. If we know Arteta the way we think we know him, I'm sure Bukayo Saka is fit already, but we'll get into that in a while. We'll talk to you guys when Fulham comes to the Emirates in April, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of occasions to talk before then because we do a podcast about a lot of things. But I would like to end this podcast by saying, basically quoting a proverb among Arsenal fans, or really fans of football and decency in general. Fuck Chelsea. And on that note, Mitch, you know what to tell the people.
Peace.
Peace. Hey folks, this is Deen from the Shirtless Plantain Show. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and follow us on all our socials. You can see them right beneath our recordings in every video. Thanks again, and see you on the next one.